afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to this. Welcome back to Anointed Love. This is episode 2, part 2, Brittany's testimony. Yeah! We have sound effects.
Yeah, you had all the goods backwards, but it's fine.
What do you mean, all the goods?
Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning.
It's like the Truman Show. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Wouldn't know what you're talking about.
We have got to make you watch that movie. All right. Anyways, do you just want to jump right into it?
Sure.
What you feel like? All right. So, start us from the beginning.
All right, y'all. So my name is Brittany, obviously, because that's what he called me. But anyway, so to give you.
Sorry. I had to open my Coke. I didn't open it before we started. I apologize. Continue.
I can't. You gotta fix that.
Go ahead. Do your thing, love.
That was not a sound effect.
I think she needs some encouragement. Hold on. Woohoo!
If you don't cut that out right now.
I think it's funny. Okay, go ahead.
No. Anyways, so from the beginning, without being rudely interrupted anymore, hopefully. Anyways.
We'll see.
So from the time that I was born, well, first of all, I was born in Thomasville, Georgia at Archibald, and I was raised in Cairo, Georgia, which is a very small town that calls itself Hospitality City, but that's not always true, but that's besides. And so I was born and raised in Cairo, Georgia, and from the time that I can remember, ever since I could remember, I was raised up in church, the Church of God to be exact. My mama had us there every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, and sometimes even on Tuesday nights, because they had youth nights on Tuesday nights. But
did you like going?
I actually did like going. I thought it was fun. Obviously, I wasn't a teenager at the time. This is when my brother and sister was in the youth group. I was actually in elementary school. But because Mama was a chaperone, I was able to be involved in it as well. So I even got to go on a few trips. But anyways, so I was born and raised in the Church of God, dedicated there, all the things, like I said, church from the time I was born. And so growing up, I was the sweetest child, if you could believe that, that you could ever meet.
What happened? I'm just kidding.
I was very shy. I didn't talk. When people would say hey to me, even at a grocery store or anything like that, if they would speak to me, I would kind of hide behind my mama and just grin at them. But as a little girl, I can remember craving the attention of my daddy, and I was at one point a daddy's girl. Like, I would like to think that I was, because I wanted to be wherever my daddy was. And I can remember if you know my daddy, like, you know he's funny, or he tries to be anyway. I can remember him leaving the house for something, like going to the grocery store or something like that, and I'd be like, "Where are you going?" And he'd say, "I'm going to talk to a man about a dog," or he'd say stuff like that. And I thought I was so gullible as a child that I would be like, "Oh, I want to go," because I thought he was serious every time. Anyways, but my daddy did the best that he could with what he had and what was given to him. I didn't realize at the time as a little girl, my daddy worked a lot. He worked graveyard shift. He worked a lot. And whenever he was at home, he was sleeping. So there's not like a whole lot of special memories I have with him other than him teaching me how to play softball, or sometimes we would get in the truck and go for a ride, and he'd pay bills and all that stuff. But that's the only really the and he would always take us on vacation in the summers, for a week or two at a time at Panama City Beach every year. Those were special memories for me, but it wasn't until I got older and I realized that as a little girl I craved attention from my daddy, and it was the love that I was craving from him. And he didn't have the best parents growing up, so he wasn't really taught how to love us. I mean, he does love us, but he wasn't shown the kind of love that I was craving. Basically, like I wanted that physical, like, hug. And I'm, even to this day, you can ask Wayne. I'm a person that you can say it all day long, but I'd rather you just show me. Um, is that true?
That is very true. Very true.
But anyways, I was a good kid growing up. I didn't have boyfriends. I had the typical, like, kindergarten boyfriends. And when I say boyfriends, I mean I would be talking to one little boy and then break up with him, and then the next day I had another little boyfriend. But anyways, it was funny because they would fight over me.
I would fight over you too.
But after kindergarten, though, I never had another boyfriend really. All through middle school, I didn't have a boyfriend. I really was all about my mama and church. And then I got to high school, and through ninth grade, I didn't have a boyfriend. And then I got to my 10th grade year, and when I tell y'all I was not a rebellious child, I'm telling y'all the truth. Like, I was terrified of my mama a little bit.
I think we all are.
Not because, like,
not of your mama, but of everybody's
right,
mama.
But she's not mean. It was just that she had a way of, basically, like the WWJD bracelets. Like, that's what my mama instilled in me. Like, if you were doing this and Jesus was in front of you, would you be proud about it? And so I think that kind of steered me away from some things. And then, anyways, so my 10th grade year, I started hanging around friends. And I'll go back a little bit more. Also, when I was a kid, I would have friends that would walk up to my mama and ask my mama if I could spend the night with them. And I would be standing behind her, telling her to tell them, or behind my friends, asking my mama and telling my mama to tell them no, because I didn't want to be away from my mama. And I can remember some nights I would spend the night off with friends, and before the night was over, I was calling my mama in the middle of the night to come pick me up because I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be with my mama. But
I think I did that once. It was with my cousin.
But whenever I got 10th grade, I started hanging out with people and started spending the night away from home. And they, this group of friends introduced me to this guy, and I was 17 at the time. And I want to say that I turned 18 while I was dating him. I can't remember, but so when I was dating this guy, I was, like I told y'all, I was very gullible. like with my dad, and so it carried on over into other things, like the red flags that I should have seen, I didn't see because I didn't know what red flags were. Because I was, and I'm not saying that I was sheltered because that's not it at all. I, in a sense, I kind of sheltered myself, if that makes any
It
sense.
does.
And so, um, I met this guy or whatever, and I lost my virginity to him. He was my first boyfriend ever, like first kiss, first everything. And I can remember, um, the night that I lost my virginity, that he started things, and then I didn't want to do it, and I told him to stop. And I can remember he got mad at me and told me that if I loved him, then you'll do it. And no offense to Wayne, because he's not like this, but the typical men that don't know Jesus, they'll throw that out at you and make you feel guilty just so that they can get you to do things.
That's not a real man, but whatever.
So, um, the first night that my daddy ever met this guy, he was a little boy, but he wasn't. He was older than me, but
He acted like a little boy.
yeah. But the first night that my daddy met him, he walked up to my daddy and shook his hand and said, "Let me shake my future father-in-law's hand." And that immediately sent red flags to my dad, and I didn't even realize it at the time, like what was happening. All I could hear them saying is, "No, this is not the one for you." And the more that they said that to me, and the more that they told me, "This ain't what you need, this ain't what you need to do," blah, 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 the more I wanted it, because I felt like they didn't know what they was talking about, because,
Parents never do.
yeah, even though they know everything.
They know everything.
But, I ended up, and during this whole time I was still in high school, and I honestly don't know how I was able to even graduate, but by the grace of God, I did. But I was missing school days, and I was um, missing school days, and running away from home and to be with this guy. And when I tell y'all that he lived in a shack, I mean, it was a shack. Like, there wasn't no toilet to pee in. Like,
Have mercy.
I can remember him going and getting a bucket and filling it up with water just so that we could use the bathroom in it. And if you know me, and y'all know, half of y'all know me that's listening to this, I know that y'all know me well enough to know Brittany ain't about that life, okay?
I don't think anybody's about that life.
But this guy had such a hold on me that I thought that, he was perfect. He was the one and all the things, but
we need to pray.
Yeah. Anyways, so I lost my virginity to him. I can remember running away from home to be with this guy. And my mama, God, she is
A saint.
yes. She's a praying mama. And she did the best she could with us kids as well, raising 3 kids from the ages of, I think when I was born, my sister was 6, Kevin was 2.5 maybe, and I had just been born. So think about that. Yeah, that's crazy.
That is a heck of a
Which
trip
I
to
know
Walmart.
that a lot of people have had them very fewer than that, but I couldn't imagine. But she was doing it a lot by herself because Dad worked, like I said, to support us. But my mama, one of the times that I ran away, my mama called the law out there because I was underage. Maybe I turned 17. I can't remember. Anyways, I was underage, and she thought that if she called the law that they could do something. Well, they found out that because I was 17, I was of age, and it was my choice whether or not I wanted to be at home or not, which is crazy, right?
Heard.
But I can remember then her sending the law out there to look for me just to make sure that I was still alive. And I remember one time, this guy made me go hide up under the porch one night while they were looking for me because he didn't want them to find me. And then I can remember one night, him trying to make me go up into the roof of the house to hide from them.
Like the attic?
Yeah. And I can remember, like, whenever he was trying to get me to do it, I stepped on a piece of glass and my foot went through it. Thankfully, nothing cut me. I don't know how, but yeah.
Jesus.
And then there was another time that Mom called the law out there and he went and hid me. It's kind of funny to me how he always knew that they were coming, though. It's the weirdest thing. But he always knew when they were coming. And I can remember one night he took me out to the woods. They live out in the woods. And he took me out to the woods, and I sat in the woods in the dark by myself for 2 hours.
Child.
Yeah.
Them red flags was red flagging.
But I thought that was love because I didn't know what love was.
Ooh.
You know that saying like your parents tell you don't know what love is. They right. They right. You don't.
Good Lord. Continue.
So anyways, I ended up getting pregnant by this guy, and 3 months in, I ended up having a miscarriage. And at the time, I thought it was devastating, but now looking back at it, it was God's protection from that guy because God knows what kind of life I would have had if that all still happened. But
right.
I can remember being in the hospital when I was going through my miscarriage, and God sending you those angels or those little winks, as people like to call it. And I can remember there's only a few things I can kind of remember from when all of this was happening to me, but I was literally on my deathbed, and I know that I was because it's not normal for somebody to, anyways. Um, but this friend of ours who's been a friend with my mama for years, and she's still a part of our lives. In fact, she babysits my youngest. Anyway, she came into the hospital while I was in the hospital having my miscarriage and said, "I'm not here for a visit. I'm here on an assignment from the Lord." And sorry, y'all, I'm going to get choked up in some of this, but I can remember
That's okay.
her coming in my room, and she'd start just praying, and she just started speaking in tongues. And I don't remember everything that she said, but I know that it was a divine appointment from the Lord. And whenever she got done praying, I looked over on my hospital door, and like those wood. Back then, they still had like the wooden doors, and so they had like the finish on it, and it
like
had
all the
grain. Yeah. And so I looked at the door, and you could literally see Jesus's face on my door.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, anyways, I went home, and then they called me back in to do a DNC, which is a surgery that you have after a miscarriage. And I can remember a little boy in the waiting room, and he was having some kind of surgery on his head, because all I can remember is his head being wrapped up. And I didn't know this little boy. This little boy didn't know me, but for some reason, he just sat in my lap the whole time in the waiting room. And I feel like that was God telling me, like, I still love you. You're gonna be okay. Anyways, so I had my DNC done. The doctor said that everything came out fine. And then they told my mama that I probably would have trouble um, getting pregnant again. and that if I did get pregnant, that there would be complications. Um, so even after my miscarriage, I still went back to the same guy.
And them red flags was still
Yeah.
red flagging.
And yeah,
Lord.
because the moment that the first thing he did whenever he saw me was, "Where have you been?" And I said, "I've been in the hospital." And he was like, I said I had a miscarriage, and he basically told me that I was lying and that I had an abortion. But um, anyways, it wasn't long after that I finally told him to kick rocks.
With open-toed shoes.
Yeah. Um, and then I finished out high school, but my 12th grade year, I met my first husband, and we dated for a little while, and then I ended up getting pregnant with my oldest daughter, Riley. And because his parents were old school, they felt like we were already engaged, which don't make it right by no means. Because listen, if you're engaged, it don't make it no better to have sex with somebody.
Or
Because that's a covenant between you, your spouse, and God that is very intimate, and you should wait till marriage. But so I met him and then got pregnant with Riley, and then we were engaged already. And because his mom and dad were old school, they wanted us to go ahead and get married. And so that's what we did. I was 5 months pregnant when I found out I was pregnant with Riley because I had a menstrual cycle every month on time. And the reason I found out that I was pregnant with her is because I had a UTI, and I went to the doctor and they tested me and it was positive.
wow.
And so I had already been 5 months pregnant, so I had 4 more months to go. So this is basically how it worked out. I found out I was pregnant in March. In April, me and her dad got married. I moved away from Cairo to his town, and then um, in July I had a newborn baby.
Side note, just in case you weren't going to say this, I have heard through the grapevine that Riley's due date was supposed to be my birthday,
It was.
July the 8th, which would have been crazy cool.
Yep.
But I guess she needed another, what was that, 3
2
weeks?
weeks.
2 weeks to cook?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. I got pregnant, whatever. I said all that. Yep. So like Wayne said, her due date was July 8th, but I had her July 21st. And I had to be induced. I was 2 weeks overdue. Um, I had no amniotic fluid in my sac. Um, I was not dilating anything but half a centimeter, which, if you know anything about the human body, that is not good because I was in labor for 8 hours and that's all I had done.
Wow.
And when I tell you I was in labor, like it was like the excruciating kind. So the doctor found out that I had a site of preeclampsia that they have never heard before, and my kidney and liver started shutting down. And if you know anything about the human body, that's the first thing that goes before somebody passes away.
Yeah.
And so, the doctor came in and told my mom and all of us that he had to do an emergency C-section because if he didn't, that me and Riley would die. And so he done an emergency C-section, had Riley. She came out beautiful, perfect, and healthy.
Still is today.
Except she'll tell you that her nose was crooked, and she blames me for that for some reason. I don't know. I don't get it.
She had a cute nose, but it's probably because she was stuffed in there. She cooked too long.
um, and then after everything, I was perfect and healthy, and started the journey of being a newborn mama, and I was terrified. And I can remember begging my mama to stay with me, even up after 2 weeks of having her, because I was scared I was going to break Riley because she was so tiny. Um, but anyways, so a little bit of backstory on this. So me and her dad lived right across the yard from his parents,
Not discreet. The yard.
the yard, and like to the point where if I looked outside of my kitchen window, I could see inside of hers.
Lord have
That's how
mercy.
close it was. And so I was 20 and he was 21. And when I tell y'all that this man had no sense of freedom in his entire life, I tell you he knew nothing. Like, he had no kind of freedom in his lifetime at all.
Like he was like the season one of Plathville. Like didn't know what a Coca Cola was.
I mean, not that bad, but it was almost that.
Oh
Yeah.
jeez.
Um. So whenever we, before we got married, or while we were married, I mean, I loved him, and I guess he loved me in his own little way. But like I said, him getting married to me was his first little taste of freedom, and even with that, there was no freedom because every time we went to the store, every time we left that house, we would get a phone call wanting to know where we were going, who we were going to see, what we were going to do, how long we were going to be gone, and what time we were going to be home. And it was very
Mm-mm.
controlling. And I can remember his mama just walking up in our house unannounced.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And
You better call me. Send me a text.
but the first flags that I saw with his mom was when I had Riley. And now, mind you, we lived an hour away. All of his family lived in that same town that we lived in, and my family lived in Cairo, which was an hour away. And so, um, whenever we took her to her first doctor's appointment, now when I had her, swine flu was big then. It was the the
2000,
pig flu,
2008, right?
2009.
9. Yeah.
Um, and so after I took her to her first doctor's appointment, I was ready to get out the house. Like I need to get away. And so from all of that time until her first doctor's appointment, these family members never came to see her, never whatever, and we lived right down the road. And
Like
so
his family members.
yeah, and so just so happened that um apparently the same day that I wanted to go to Cairo, his family members wanted to come see her, and his mama had a whole meltdown.
Did you tell anybody you was going to Cairo?
Yeah, I told him I was going to Cairo.
That's why they all wanted to come
You
see him
right.
because you was
Now
trying to
looking
leave
back, but um
control.
yeah.
Anyways,
And so his mama was very controlling. And I just looked at her and said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to Cairo today. They'll have to come see her another time. It's not my responsibility to take her to them. And so she got mad at me. And so that was the first thing. And then there were a few more times that we had issues. And um, I can remember one time my sister had just had my nephew, and I had went and stayed at her house for a few days to help her. And when I say a few days, I mean like maybe a night or two. And when I got back, she asked me where I had been, and I told her, and she told me that married women don't spend the night off away from their husbands.
Mm, hmm.
And when she started, uh, Riley was taking her shoes off, and I was putting Riley's shoes back on, and she was just a talking. I don't even know what she was saying, but I picked Riley up, and I can remember her trying to stop me from picking Riley up, and I told her to get her hands off of her because that was my child, not hers. And so I was trying to leave her house, and I'm telling y'all, this woman is so demonic. And I'm not going to say her name because I'm trying to be real nice, but shut up. Some people may know her and some people may not, but I'm going to keep it discreet, okay? Um, but she was so demonic. And if you know this lady, you know she's like a beanpole, okay? And if you know me, you know I'm chunky.
Chunky.
And so she tried to stop me from getting out of the house, and she would go and keep the door shut. And I'm telling y'all that I could not open the door for nothing to save my life. Like nothing. Because she was just that. I'm not going to say she was that strong because I feel like that was the demonic spirit in her at that moment. And she told me that, she called me all kind of names. Her favorite word was I was a fat, you know what, and all this other crap. But she finally let me out of the house, and then um there was a few more times that aren't as like memorable.
Heard.
um and then my husband at the time was addicted to video games, and when I tell y'all addicted, I mean addicted. I mean to the point where um Riley, we was potty training Riley, and she had not wet her pants all day that day. And he came home from work, and as soon as he got off work, he jumped on his video game, didn't say hey to us, how y'all doing, how was y'all's day, or anything. And so Riley wanted his attention, so she was jumping on his back, saying, "Hey, Daddy," blah 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 blah. And he kind of pushed her off of him and got onto her and was like, "Quit it," that type of thing. And within a moment of 30 minutes, she had peed her panties probably 4 or 5 times trying to get his attention. Um, so it was just stuff like that. He was so addicted that he would bring his TV, his console, and his games to Cairo with him when we would come to church and play his video games in the hallway at church while church was going on.
I ain't never in my whole life, in all my almost 32 years. That is crazy.
Yeah. And so
Anyways,
um, we had sat down and talked about how we were growing out of each other, and he cheated on me, and a lot of things happened, and um, I was just done, and it was to the point where I was taking him and dropping him off at his girlfriend's house.
mm,
Yeah, it was that serious. And so I ended up finally leaving, and this was in 2000. We were married 5 years, I think, when I left, or before our divorce was final. Yeah, we had been married for 5 years. Um, and so that was 2014.
heard.
Yeah, and um, so the parts that I'm fixing to get into this is going to tell you how much I craved a man's attention and didn't realize it, because as soon as I had my miscarriage and all that, I met um my first husband not too long after that. And so with my first husband, we separated that November, and um I moved back to Cairo and he stayed in Donaldsonville. Anyways, he ended up leaving our house and going and moving into the girlfriend's house. And so in January, I met someone else, which would have been my second husband. And whenever I met him, there was a lot of red flags again. Go figure.
Them red flags be red flagging.
And so I met him January of 2014. Um, so that tells you how quick I moved. I didn't want to be alone. I was afraid of being alone. I felt like if I was alone, that mean that I wasn't worth anything, that nobody loved me, all of the things. So, um, I met this guy in 2014, and um, the same month that my divorce was final with my first husband, I got married to my second husband. Ironically, the anniversary of my second husband was on the birthday of my first husband. Red flag, Brittany. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. There was also another red flag, but we're not going to talk about that because I said I was going to keep the names hush because I'm trying to be respectful.
Heard.
um, but in the process of the divorce, me and Riley's dad had talked about custody stuff, and we had an agreement, and then all of a sudden this agreement went out the window, and one day I got a phone call from the sheriff's office saying, hey, can you come up here, blah 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 blah. And come to find out, I thought they were asking me to come sign papers or whatever. I didn't know. And come to find out, they were wanting to know where Riley was at because they were trying to take her from me and had no reason to do so. They came up with lies.
How old was Riley at this time?
She was born in 2009. She was 4, almost. She was 4
Heard.
because her birthday's in July. So pre-K age, and so she wasn't with me. She was actually with my mom or at school or something. I can't remember. Anyways, I can just remember being hysterical and them telling me, you know, we're gonna send a sheriff to the school to get your daughter, and I was like, no, you're not, not mine. You might be going to get somebody else's, but you ain't going to get mine. Because I could only imagine like what that would have done to her as a 4-year-old,
Oh
getting
yeah.
put in the back of a cop car with someone that she didn't even know. And I'm
Mm.
sorry, I'm that mama. You not fixing to get my youngin. Period. And so, I just blessed the little girl's heart, whoever was talking to me, because I just let her have it. I can remember squalling and crying, and I remember calling my mama, trying to tell my mama what was going on, and I couldn't get it out. And I had my beautiful best friend slash sister-in-law with me, Ashley, and we have been with each other through a lot of things in life, and she happened to be with me that day, and so she took the phone from me and talked to my mama and told my mama what was going on. And so the lady that was talking to me, she was like, I can tell that you're a good mama because bad mamas don't react this way when we say that we're taking your child.
Right.
And so, and when she said that to me, it was like, well, then why are you doing this?
Exactly.
But, and then I told them I wasn't leaving until Riley's dad got there to get her. And they wouldn't come up there to get her until I left. So I can remember them giving me a little teddy bear to give Riley to, keep her calm or whatever. And I can remember sitting down with Riley and talking to her and telling her that I love her and that whenever she hugged that bear, she could think of me. And to this day, she still has that bear.
That's sweet.
Um, but they took me to court after that. They took me to court 5 different times. When they took her the first time at the sheriff's office, we went and had court in the same town that they lived in. And if you know these people, they have connections in law enforcement and defects. So it we went to court and all the things happened, and for some reason I don't know why or how, but her dad ended up going ahead and giving her back to me before everything was over and said and done with. And when I got in contact with my lawyer about it, she said that's fine because you won the court case anyways. And then they took me again another time, 5 times in less than a year. They took me again, and like they would take me for stuff like because she had ringworms one time. What child do you know don't get ringworms?
I mean, they play outside.
Exactly.
It
She
happens.
had lice one time.
She had what?
Lice.
Oh, that also happens.
Um, Stuff like it was just stupid stuff, like nothing that they could really go off of. And I won every time, but the last time that they took me, I really just took a step back because I could really see that it was getting to Riley, and I could see that like
She's still 4 or 5 around this time.
no, she's around this time she's probably maybe five by now.
5 or 6. Old enough to remember pretty
Right,
much.
she remembers a lot. But at this point, like she had to have been like in kindergarten or first grade at this point. I want to say kindergarten. Um, cause pre-K is whenever we got separated, so I'm pretty sure it was kindergarten.
Or
But anyways, this past time, like I could just see mentally, like it was starting to affect her. She wasn't eating, she wasn't sleeping good. It was taking a toll on her. So as a mama, I had to do a hard thing and decide to let them keep her because at the end of the day, regardless of how his parents were, I knew that she would be taken care of by them. I knew that they loved her and that they would take care of her. And that she would probably more than likely be with them most of the time, which is exactly what happened. And
that still happens.
um and so it was hard. It was a hard decision to make, and unless you're put in that position, you don't really understand the concept of it. And I hear people tell me all the time like you should have fought for her or I would get her back. And while all this is true, I have always made sure that Riley knew more than anything that I loved her. Because see what the other people do is they try to buy her love, but I've always wanted to make sure that she knew that I loved her unconditionally. And so now she is 14, almost 15, and she's starting to see things on her own and how they've done me and how they have lied and all of the things. So I have always told her that it's her choice because I know that she has a life over there and it's her choice whether or not she wants to live with me or not. And I'm okay with her decision because her entire life they have tried to make me out as a bad person. They have lied on me. They have told her lies. They have made her feel like she had to choose between me or them. And I never wanted to be on the other end of that. I'm not fixing to make her make a decision, me or them. That's not a thing for me.
That's very big of you. Just saying.
Um, it's hard, but I have lived it, and I'd say I'm doing really good. So, anyways, um, so back to 2014, whenever I married my second husband, the same month that my divorce was final. Oh gosh, y'all, this man, I was crazy. Uh, Well, when he's laughing because he knows a little bit of this story.
Oh Lord Jesus. Okay. And go.
Um, so this guy was covered in tattoos. He was a jailbird.
Tweet tweet.
um, wow. We got married at the courthouse. Um, I saw the good in him, but he didn't want the good, if that makes any sense.
You
Like,
saw what he could be.
right.
Heard.
And so, with that being said, I was trying to fix him, and you can't fix somebody that don't want to be fixed.
We'll say
And
that again for the people in the back of the room.
you can't fix somebody that don't want to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, I had took him to church. We went to a revival one time. I can remember when we went to a revival, he got prayed for, and the guy that prayed for him was full of the Holy Ghost. And, anyways, my second husband, he ended up laid out in the spirit in the floor. And you would think that that would have changed him, but I think he should have stayed down a little longer.
Hey, that's funny.
He should have been like that guy on TBN when he tells you pick him up, and then he blows on him. Pick him up, do it again. But anyway, so I thought this guy hung the moon stars, didn't have a job. He had already had another child that he didn't have anything to do with. And I thought it was just because the mama wouldn't let him, but later on I found out that was not the truth. Um, when I first met him, he told me that his mama died. Come to find out, she had not died.
She's still alive and well
Yeah.
today.
And within a month of us dating, I found out that he was cheating on me, talking to somebody else. Yeah. and and the reaction and the look I'm getting from my husband now
Boy, them red flags be red flagging.
will tell you why.
That's what we're gonna name this episode. Red flags be red flagging.
So y'all, he's crazy.
Him or me?
All of y'all.
I need you to calm down now.
But man, I tell you what. So I will tell y'all that because I really don't know where to start in this one because it's a whole lot, but I will start off by saying that the whole time we were married, oh well, I'll tell y'all that later on because then it'll make more sense. But he didn't keep a job, didn't want a job. If he did have a job, he'd try to find a way to get on workman's comp.
You talking this dude would just pour out some oil on the floor and fall over?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
And
have
the
mercy,
funniest
God.
thing is that he smoked weed all the time, and he knew he was going to get drug tested, but he did it anyways.
Well, that's just retarded.
Anyway, so we got married. We had a house when we got married, and I don't remember how long it was, but we ended up losing that house. And then I'll tell y'all this. We had moved, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 times within a year after we got married. A whole year after we got married, we lived in 5 different houses. So when we first got together, he never. I mean, I can remember that the night on our wedding night, we didn't even sleep in the same bed. He slept on the couch and I slept in the bed.
Why?
I mean, he was mad, and I didn't know why. He wouldn't tell me why. But now looking back, red flag.
They be red flagging.
Um, and so I can remember that this man was so obsessed with me that if I went to church or if I went off with my friends anywhere, that he would call while I was gone and say that he was killing himself or that he was in a medical condition where I needed to leave and go to his aid. And when I would get to him, nothing would be wrong.
Control.
Hmm.
That's control.
And when I tell y'all, he stripped me away from everybody that was close to me, everybody that I loved, everybody that I knew. That's exactly what he did. He turned me against my family and made me think that they didn't love me and they didn't care about me and that he was the only one that I had. Even my sister-in-law, my best friend Ashley that I was talking about earlier, he did the same thing with her. And for us to be apart, like if you know us, you know that our bond is strong. And so for somebody to be able to tear that apart, you know, you got to have a hold on somebody. And he had a hold on me. And I tried to help him. And again, I tried to fix him, but he didn't want to be fixed. He would do drugs behind my back. He would never do them in my face. But I have a nose like a hound dog. You can ask Wayne. Like I can smell something from miles away.
Yeah.
And like I could smell it whenever he was smoking marijuana. I could smell the alcohol on his breath, and he would just lie to me about it. And it was to the point um where it was just ridiculous. Anyways, so he moved me all the way up to Athens, Georgia, and um well, I'll take that back. I found out I was pregnant with Rainey, and then he moved us up to Athens, Georgia, and we lived in a house with some preacher man, Baptist man, and some that was yeah. Anyways, and so um, well, I need to take it back some more a little bit further. Before I found out I was pregnant with Rainey, we were still living in the apartments, and I can remember one night we was joking around or something and we were playing around or something and he kind of slapped me in my face kind of hard and I was like, you don't need to do that because one day you might want to do that for real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it kind of shook me a little bit. Like, yeah, are you playing or
I would have shook him, but okay.
and so after that he started hitting me and we would get in fist fights and um I can remember one Christmas we had bought Riley all the things and he left the day before Christmas to go be with somebody else and when I say somebody else I mean he was cheating on me. And um whenever he got back home he got mad at me and threw me on the bed and was like on top of me, choking me and hitting me. And then I can remember a time of us being in the car and because I didn't call my mama and ask her for money, he hit me and got on top of me in the car. And um anyways, and that time I told him I was like, you really don't need to hit me no more because I might be pregnant and you gonna hurt me and blah 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 blah. Anyways, so he moved us to Athens, Georgia, and
Whew.
while
Your
I was
testimony is making me mad. I love you so much.
while
I'll be ready to fight. What prison is he in again? I'll be ready to do something to get thrown in prison so I can fight him. I have a toothbrush.
I
I can
let
shank somebody.
I let Jesus fight my battles, baby.
Well, I'm from the south side of the kingdom. It's fine. Keep going. I'm
Um,
sorry. You was pregnant, moved to Athens.
yeah. And so within 4 months of being pregnant with Rainey, that whole time he didn't hit me no more. And then there was one day where he got like really, really, really mad and started throwing stuff and acting crazy. And I kind of figured that he was on something, but I didn't want to read too much into it because by this time I was kind of just, I want to get away from this. And so that day that he started acting like that, I just looked at him and told him I wanted him to take me home. I want to go back home to my mama. Like now, today, right now. So that's what.
You were in Athens at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so um he took me to Athens, and then to Cairo, to home. And while I was at home, he was up there doing his own thing. And keep in mind, I'm still with this guy for some reason. Don't really know why, but we're still married, but we're just not together. So it wasn't like we were separated or divorced. We just wasn't living in the same. It was crazy. Anyways, that's how much I thought I loved this man. Um, and I can say that I did love him because when I love hard. He just not did not reciprocate. That word.
Reciprocate.
Thank you, baby.
You're welcome, love.
He did not reciprocate. He didn't do that word back.
He didn't give it back.
Yeah. um. So while he was living in Athens, he ended up stealing and getting locked up for revoking his probation and all. Well, he didn't get locked up then. I don't think. Yeah, no. Rainey was. Anyways, let me back up some. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, he was up there the whole time I was pregnant with Rainey, basically, and I was down here. The day that I had Rainey, he was up there, and I told him what time he needed to be at the hospital, and I can remember that I started calling him at the time of when he was supposed to be there, and he wouldn't pick up the phone, wouldn't pick up the phone, wouldn't pick up the phone. And I can remember calling, because I wanted him to be there for our child's birth. Why? I don't know. But anyways, so then he finally, they were telling me that I kept begging the people. I was like, please don't take me back yet. Please don't. And they finally was like telling me, we can't wait no more. Like, you're fixing to have to just go and get it done or whatever. My C-section, because it was scheduled. And so, to tell you a little bit about that, by the time I was being rolled back into surgery, he had just got there and came in there and looked at me and was like, I'm here. And I just looked at him like, you better pray to God you are, because at this point I'm ready to kill you. But I had Rainey, and whenever I had her, she had what they call grunt syndrome, which is where her lungs was working too hard, and instead of crying, she was grunting because she had a lot of amniotic fluid in her. So she had to be sent off to Phoebe on oxygen, and before she ever made it to Albany, she had all the stuff pulled out of her nose and everything. But
And she's still that sassy today.
yeah, she is.
Lord help us.
She don't like needles. She don't like doctors. She don't like doctors, period. It don't matter what kind of doctor you are. We got mad respect for y'all doctors and nurses, but she don't like y'all.
That part.
But I was trying to recover from the C-section so that I could go to Albany and be with her because I had her in Cairo. And I can remember us leaving the hospital in Cairo and going to Albany to see Rainey. And we wasn't even there 20 minutes and he was ready to leave. And and when I say leave, I mean he was ready to go back to Athens. And so he went back to Athens, and then when she was 3 months old, he came back to Cairo. But this time he brought a girl with him who he told everybody that was his cousin. And she was not his cousin. She was somebody that he was sleeping with. And they was living out of storage buildings in Cairo.
Lord help him.
And he was here for about 3 months. So when Rainey was 6 months old, is whenever he got locked up for a probation revocation, and he served, I think, 5 or 6 years. I can't remember. But anyways, that whole time he was in prison, we was still married. But I will say that him going to prison was the best thing that happened to us, because it helped me to realize what I was doing and how it was affecting my life, but not just my life, but the girls' lives. And I could remember how it affected Riley, and how I didn't want to put Rainey through the same stuff. And so I kind of prayed about it, and God just kept revealing to me, like, this isn't changing. He's still the same person. And so we found out that he was getting out on June 1st. So I think he found out May 26th that he was getting out on June 1st. And then May 28th, which was our anniversary, he got served divorce papers. And then no, he didn't get served divorce papers. He had already had divorce papers. So he found out that he was getting out on May 26th, on June 1st. And then May 28th, which was our 6-year anniversary, our divorce was final. And then he got out on June 1st. So tell me that wasn't a God thing.
Definitely.
And so whenever he got out, he tried to come back into our lives and say that he had changed and this, that, and the third. And me being the person, I'm like, okay, you get one try. And so when he got out of prison, I found out that he slept with another female, and I was done, basically. Not to mention that the whole time of our 6 years of being married, he had never done any kind of drug in front of me, nothing. Like, if anybody even talked about drugs in front of me with him around, he would tell them to shut up, because he didn't want me to hear about it and know about it or nothing like that. And so that same time where I was like trying to give him a chance, I can remember him taking out a shard of meth and doing it right there in front of me like it wasn't nothing. And I thank God that he did that, because it showed me that he didn't change. Like, I feel like that was God putting me in that moment to show me that him taking that out, doing it right there in front of me while my youngin's in the back seat, was a God moment for me. It was one of those red letter days. Like, what are you doing with your life? You need to run.
So did you push him out of the car, or
No. I left him in Athens. Anyways, so we were together for that long, and then in 2018, started a journey of me dating off and on different people, but we ain't gonna get into all of that, because none of it's as dramatic as everything else was. But
take us to
I'm
I
trying
don't know,
to get
December
there.
of 2021 when
So,
you met a certain
anyways.
handsome fellow.
Anyway, so yeah, all of that. And so me and Rainey and Riley, we started out the journey of me being the single mama. And I finally got my life together. I started going to Abundant Life Finders and Believers. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
444 Highway 112, North Cairo, Georgia. Y'all should check it out.
Come and join us.
Anyways, Um, when I tell you these people loved on me and loved me through my healing, they didn't judge me, they didn't criticize me. I will tell you that my pastor Felicia, she is the OG. She is the realest person that you will ever meet and will read your mail like nobody's business.
Agreed.
And
Her and Kyle.
she was just one of those people that could really get through me because I respected her and valued her wisdom with the Lord. And thank God for her. But and Kyle Moy too, he poured into me a lot. He has the gift of prophecy.
Yeah, he do.
And he would prophesy over me and
Yeah, he does.
tell me all these things.
Yes, he will.
Anyway, he's doing all that because Kyle's his best friend.
And is.
But he's like a brother to me. I knew him all my life. But anyways, so I got the healing that I needed, and then I met this lovely woman named Chris. Started coming to church there in 2020, I think, and it was right after COVID kind of died down, and um, I got to know her, and she became my spiritual mama, and one day she was playing this video of this guy singing, and oh my gosh,
That sounds like a handsome guy.
his voice was so heavenly,
and he was handsome.
he was handsome, and and I jokingly said, "Oh, that's gonna be my future husband one day."
Yes, he is.
And I was just joking, but little did I know I was prophesying over myself.
Come on, somebody.
But so me and her went out on a mother-daughter date. And she loves Olive Garden. So and if you know her, you know if she's somewhere and there's an Olive Garden, she's going. But she we went to Valdosta that day, and she said to me, because she already knew, like, you know, she probably already knew that I was like trying to scope it out. And so she said to me, I have to go to Valdosta to give my son something. He works at Olive Garden. He's the manager there. And I said, "Is this the same one that was singing?" And she was like, "Yes." And she was like, "But I'm not trying to like introduce y'all or anything because he's got some healing that he needs to do, and so do you."
Yes, he did.
And so I said, "Okay," but I really think that she was trying to introduce us, but secretly not doing it.
Heard.
But she introduced us. Y'all heard Wayne's testimony about that.
Hey, Miss Brittany, how are you?
Yeah, he did. He's making me blush right now. Stop it.
Yeah, baby.
Anyways,
we're so cute. Listen to us. I love it. Keep going.
Anyways, so his mama introduced us, and we said hello to each other, and that was about it. We kind of left it at that and didn't pursue anything.
Because I still, at the time, wasn't really looking for anything.
And then 3 months later, I friended him on Facebook and sent him a message, and we talked all night till like 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was, until we finally was like, okay, we got to go to sleep.
Wasn't it like 3:33 in the morning?
Yeah, that's my number.
Yeah.
And then, like he told y'all, he done everything he could to push me away and didn't want a relationship and ghosted me and all the things.
I did.
And he told y'all about me buying him the beer on his birthday. If you haven't noticed in this story, which you probably haven't because I haven't really gone into too much depth of all of it, but I can be an enabler because I want to um I want to
Make
make
you happy.
you're right. I want to make the person that I love happy and all of the things. And then honestly, it kind of wasn't too long after that we started dating in September.
Well, you said in part one that I did something special when I asked you to be my girlfriend. Do you remember what it was?
Uh-uh.
Well, I don't remember
Oh
either.
yeah. I remember. I remember.
I was asking because I wanted to
um.
remember.
So whenever he asked me to be his girlfriend, he did it over text message, y'all. He was at my house all night long, and we kissed on the front porch and all the things.
And the girls called us.
And then he left and texted me and asked me to be his girlfriend. Now keep in mind, right before he texted me and asked me, I called him. I remember this. I called you because the girls was laughing
Mm-hmm.
and all the things. And I can remember we hung up and Wayne said, ask them how they would feel if I asked you to be my girlfriend. And I said, what do you mean? Are you asking me? And he was like, yes, will you be my girlfriend? Well, what makes this so special is that I told him when we first started talking because he didn't want to be with anybody that he had 6 months to a year to decide what he wanted to do. And he asked me at midnight, and it was 6 months to the day of us talking as friends. And
I'm so thoughtful. Like,
yes, you are.
dang it.
Um, he asked me to be his girlfriend 6 months to the day, and then if you know me, you know me. You know that this was like a whole process because within my story, you can realize that it was kind of back to back to back, that I wasn't alone. I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to wait. Like, whenever I want somebody, I want somebody, and I want them now. Like, that's it. Period. Let's do this. And so, in all of this, even though Wayne had his stuff that he was going through and healing from, I didn't realize that there was still stuff that I was still dealing with and I needed to heal from. And those things for me was waiting on the right one. And I can remember in those moments where when he ghosted me and all the things, that I can literally tell you that I prayed to the Lord and I was like, okay, God, like, if this man is not the man that you want for me, please shut the door and shut it tight, lock it, throw away the key. Don't let me fall for all of this. Like, just don't. Because Wayne was very much of a, I think he knew that I was good for him, but he knew that he wasn't ready to be with anybody. So when we were friends, it was a push and a pull for us, me especially, because one minute he was saying, I'm not ready, I don't know when I'll be ready. And the other minute it was, please don't go, just wait on me. It was very much of a back
Wishy
and forth.
washy.
And so I prayed and asked God to show me what to do. And then it got to the point where he ghosted me, and I was like, all right, Lord, I'm not going to do this no more. Like, if he's the one that's supposed to be with me, you're going to make a way for this to happen, and he's going to put in the effort as much as I am. And so whenever he ghosted me, I stopped texting Wayne because I was always the first one to say good morning, and I was always the one to keep the conversation going. Not saying that he didn't talk, but it was me initiating it basically.
Right.
And so I was kind of like, okay, Lord, like, if he's the one, you'll let him talk to me first because I'm not doing it anymore. And so after I prayed that, I kind of texted Wayne and let him know where my head was at and told him I was kind of tired of this. Like, either you know what you want to do or you don't, and I'm not going to do this anymore. And I basically told him, I was like, if you want to talk, you know where I'm at, kind of thing. Like, I'm done with this, basically. And so it was a few days where we didn't have any kind of commotion. It was a couple of days where we didn't have any kind of communication at all, and he ended up texting me, and then he came over for my housewarming party,
I did.
and I embarrassed him. he
She told people, she said, y'all ain't got to leave. Y'all ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. I got plans later. And somebody was like, at the end of the thing, they were like, aren't you leaving too? And I was like, no, I'm who she has plans with.
but
we went and saw Maverick, Top Gun. We
yes,
went to the movie theater that has like the
yeah,
entrees and stuff.
yep.
Or,
And I embarrassed him because it was like in a, I wouldn't say an inappropriate moment. It was just like it was a housewarming party, and I was telling everybody thank you, and like some people had gotten me like these pancake, what do you call them?
the griddle.
Yeah, the griddles, and they were like, "You cooking us supper tonight?" And I was like, "No, and you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here because I got plans." And everybody heard it, and when I said that, people that knew me all turned and looked at Wayne, and
My face got as red as my
yeah.
Stone shirt.
But that night we went out, I wouldn't talk to him either, and he told me he thought he was he thought I was mad at him.
Because you wouldn't say anything. I would be talking to you and you'd just be staring,
Well, I told
shaking
him
your
I
head.
couldn't because in my own little way, I know you can't love somebody you don't know, but I kind of felt like I knew him because, see, like I said, through all this process, even with us waiting 6 months before we were boyfriend and girlfriend, we were friends before we were anything else. And when I tell you, I talked to this man about everything and anything. I laid it out for him. I told him what I was looking for, all the things. And whenever I had life moments come up where I needed someone to talk to and my world was crashing down, I knew that I could call him and talk to him about anything, and he was always there for me, regardless. Um, so, anyways, we did all that, and then he asked me to marry him on my birthday. It was the best birthday ever. Let's talk about the day before my birthday, though.
I think let's save that for another episode.
Okay.
That'll be our next episode.
Okay.
Because that is a whole episode by itself.
Yeah.
That was a whole adventure.
And then we got married, and it was the best day of my life.
It was awesome. It was a good wedding day.
When I tell y'all that my girls thinks that he hung the moon and stars and sun, they really do. They love him.
Lies.
You're lying.
I mean, they do love me. I love them.
And they do think that he hung the moon, stars, and sun in their eyes. And it's funny because Riley is very standoffish because she's went through all the things with me, more things than Rainey has, and Riley adores him. And if you know her, you know she's kind of hard to get to. And
she was. I felt like at the beginning, but you always told me like no, like she opened up to you quick.
Yep.
Like she was laughing and cutting up with me.
Yeah.
Not long after we kind of got together, but it's probably because she even noticed I wasn't like none of the other ones.
Yeah. But I would like to say that it's been fantastic and it's been butterflies and rainbows this whole time, but that would be a lie. We have faced many trials and tribulations already just within this 1 year of marriage, but we overcome it every time
100%.
because we know that God has something greater in store. But for those of you that have been through some of the things that I've been through and been abused and all of the things, and you feel like there's nowhere to turn to and nowhere to hide, and just keep holding on and wait for the one that God's called you to, because when I tell you that Wayne is everything that I could ask for in a man, he legit is. And honestly don't know where I would be without him today.
I love you.
I love you. He he is he can be very hard on me at times, but it's because I need that push. But I know that whenever he is, he's doing it out of love and not to be mean.
I know
Uh,
you call me mean all the time.
y'all, he don't know how to take a joke. He tells me how to take mine too far.
Well,
I call him a fun sucker. He doesn't like it.
no, I don't.
But I don't know. That's my story. I'm sure that I left something out, but I know that I said what needed to be said and heard. Um, yeah. You got any questions for me?
I do have questions. So, um, how would you say when you were going through all of these difficult things? You said that you were raised in a church. So, going through all of those difficult things, was it hard to find your way back to God in that? Or was it like because those things happened, it pushed you closer to God?
I would say a little bit of both because I was so lost at times where I felt like I didn't know where God was at. But I knew that He was still there with me, if any of that makes sense. Like
It does.
I was raised that, God stays. He never leaves you. You run away from Him. He doesn't run away from you. And I knew that God had a calling on my life, and I ran so far from it that I couldn't run anymore. And when I came back to God, it strengthened my relationship with Him because I knew that no matter the things that I had been through or whatever the case may have been, that He still loved me no matter what I did, or, you know, He was always there.
Sure. So, what advice would you offer somebody who finds themselves in the same situation like you? More than I know you said earlier, just hang in there. You know, my man is beating me. I done had two babies by him. He's cheating on me. What should I do?
I got 3 letters for you: RUN. No,
Run
but
to where though?
to Jesus, because He's the only thing that can save you. And, you know, a man that does these things to you is not a man who is running after God.
It ain't a man at all. Just saying.
And if God is not in a marriage and if He is not in the center of your marriage, then your marriage is not going to last. And, well, I won't say that it won't last because some people do stay through the hard even without God in their marriage. But for us and for me and my
We
household,
will serve the Lord.
we will serve the Lord. And I
That's in the
know
book of Joshua.
my mama raised me. You put God first in everything that you do and say, and everything else will be added. And that
That's
is very
biblical.
true. And um, I would like to say that having God in the center of your marriage is easy, but it's hard work because you have to find time to make for your husband, your children, and God.
Right, I get that. All right, well, last question. You said your mama was a praying mama, and now I know you are a praying mama. So, what advice would you give the praying mamas on the other side of this, whose kids, daughters, sons, whatever, are in a bad relationship, that they are so far from God, prodigal children, pretty much. The praying mama who's praying for their prodigal child. What would you say to them?
Don't give up. When the world tells you to stop praying and just let them go and just let them do this, this, and this, don't. Don't do that. Don't give in to what man says. Give in to what God says. Because all of these things was said to my mama whenever I was going through all this, when I was running. they would tell her, just give up on her, just let her go, let her fall, let her do this, let her do that. And my mama said no, because if she don't have me, she don't have nobody. And so my mama prayed, and when I tell you she prayed, she prayed, she prayed, she prayed, she prayed. And I know for a fact she did. And I can remember her telling me that one night she was on TV watching TBN because that's her thing. And the person on the TV was preaching and saying, when you've done everything you know to do and said all you know to say, just be still and know that I am God. And so my mama said that in that moment, all she could do was just be still. And so she was just still in God's presence. And the funny thing is that after that, when I was going through all the things that I went through with Riley, God really gave that verse to me, be still and know that I am God. So if anybody's going through that, read that over and over and over again, and just don't give up on them, because I'm living proof that prayer works. It's not in your timing, it's in God's timing. I was just talking to a friend earlier today. We would like for things to happen in our own time, but that's not how God works, because as a matter of fact, I really look at it like this here lately, that God doesn't have a time. He don't have a clock. He don't have a calendar. He doesn't work. His time in heaven doesn't work like our time here on earth. And so I feel like we shouldn't even have that expectation of his timing, because his timing is so much more different than ours.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I would just keep praying.
Bible says in Isaiah, I think it is, when the time is right, I, the Lord your God, will make it happen.
That's right.
That's good. That's real good. All right, well, episode 2 in the
I'm
bag.
so sorry that this was so lengthy.
Don't be sorry. No, this was awesome. We did great. Good job. It was awesome. You ready?
Awesome!
Awesome! That was my sound effects. I love doing it. All right, y'all. So this is going to be it for tonight. Come back and see us on the next episode of Anointed Love.
Bye, y'all.